Halifax Mooseheads 1-1 after the opening weekend in the Q. As far as Newfoundland goes, well, they were treated to a nice 2-0 weekend. Lots to be excited for if you are a fan of the QMJHL. Welcome to Halifax Sports Talk. Andrew McGinnis, Dayton Camo with you to break things down. Might touch on the Wanderers, might touch on the Thunderbirds, all kinds of good stuff on the channel, and look forward to growing a great connection with all of you guys out there in the HRM and, of course, across Atlantic Canada. Dayton, how are you?
Well, first off, what an intro. First show together. This guy's banging out intros like that. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm fired up. I'm excited. I'm excited to have found someone that shares the same passion as me, as with local sports, and we're going to be doing at least 2 shows a week. That's our goal. More of one being a recap, and then of course one being more of a look ahead as far as stuff is concerned. And you already got out ahead of me. I mean, look, I was at a wedding over the weekend. I was a little bit preoccupied, but you got the channel started with some preview videos and of course the game recap videos. But QMJHL opening weekend, an exciting weekend for the Maritime Division. Look, obviously close to home. I'm here in Halifax. You got the Moosehead jersey right behind you, but I think we got to start with this. When an expansion team, I guess we can't really call it expansion, but when a team relocates, it's important that that first opening night is huge. The fans turn up, the crowd's there, the team performs, and I think Newfoundland can say, and St. John's, Newfoundland can say, they certainly showed up over the weekend.
Man, they turned up, excuse me. They really showed out for their crowd. I think actually I was talking to Jared, one of my buddies at Mayo Media Network, and Jared's from right outside of St. John's. He said for an arena that holds around 7 to 7,500, for them to get that loud, and actually we were talking about the 50-50. We'll touch on that in a second, but for them to have an amount of 37,000 for a 50-50 in the first weekend, like he said, that was insane. I was also watching them here from home. Not too bad.
Yeah, it's really good to see. And you know, one thing that I knew was going to happen right when the team sort of got announced was the fact that it's going to be back to back against the same team. And of course, the Halifax Mooseheads did the same thing with the Charlottetown Islanders, but that won't be the case every weekend.
Right.
As far as the Newfoundland Regiment are concerned, that is going to be the case. You're making the trip over to Newfoundland. You're probably going to play the same team twice. You don't have another team flying in the next day. What do you think about that overall? Do you like that idea? I know that in the past I've talked to coaches and they said that they like that because you go, you watch some film, you say a few things to your team and you want them to improve the next day. Players might find it a bit more dry, but as far as the coaches are concerned, and maybe even it adds a rivalry, you know, it's like a weekend rivalry. I don't think it's that bad of a thing at all.
Well, you talk about that. I am a fan of it, actually. I was just in St. John doing a couple of U16 AAA games, and it was actually the Cabot Highlanders that came to St. John, and they did the or I guess it's not a home and home. They did a weekend swing in St. John, and the first game, the teams were kind of like, I don't know. Second game, teams like knew how each other played, and I guess the Q, I guess with more developed players, this might even help even more. So it's good for development. It's also good for the fans. If the fans have a certain player or a certain team they want to watch come into the Rock for a weekend, they get 2 games in a row. So there you go.
Yeah, it's good to see. And I think the crowd will like it. Overall, unbelievable. All right, you got a storyline that you wanted to bring up. And of course, I think it was the talk of the town, not just in the Maritimes division, but across the queue. I think you and I can both speak to being a play by play commentator and how exciting it can be. But when you get some news that a loved one just won the 50-50, that can make things pretty exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was on Bleacher Report too. Like there were some like
Yeah.
big news outlets reporting on this, and yeah, I guess Seth Hyde. He's 17 years old, so big shout out to him. What a job to have at 17, eh? Like
For
commentating your
sure.
local Q League team. But anyways, his mom won like 37 grand, and he was up there like laughing it off with his color guy. But I'm thinking like down here, that's a nice amount of money to win.
Well, I think it's like good karma because he was excited just for somebody in general. Like, did you heard? And they're like, wow, did you hear how much the 50-50 was? And then they were like, oh my God, it was somebody that related to me. It was my mom that won it. So it's like he seemed like a good guy already for just being happy for whoever it was. And then finding out it was someone close to home. That's pretty cool overall.
Yeah, definitely. When I was young, my dad used to like throw money into the 50-50 around the rinks, and he would always somehow come out with the $150, whatever it was, from some random like Pee Wee double A game.
And that's the thing is you remember those memories. And I think
Yeah,
that
exactly.
people are going to label that opening night not just as a great game for the team. That's kind of like a storyline overall for people to remember about what happened there. But look, people across the league will talk about how in the opening weekend of CHL hockey, there are players that are at NHL training camps. And of course, that can impact certain teams' results. But it was Newfoundland against Moncton. Newfoundland did go 2-0 in the series. One of them was a bit harder to come by than the other. That was game 2. But your thoughts on the series overall?
Well, the first game, I'll just do a quick touch on that. Moncton scores 42 seconds into the game. The air was sucked out of the building, but then Newfoundland comes back, restores their 4-1 lead before obviously Newfoundland came back and tied it ultimately. If you haven't seen it, go rewatch the game. I'm sure it's up there on YouTube somewhere. 7-5 victory for Newfoundland. But game 2, like you said, was back and forth until the very end when their captain Justin LaRose fired home like the eventual winner. So that was electric. That's the only word I have to describe it, was electric.
And I'm sure the coaching staff doesn't want this, but if you're someone trying to sell tickets for that team, you couldn't have written a better storyline. You really couldn't have, especially for game 2. Like a dying minute in the game, come back, score that goal, tie things up, and then go on and win it. And switching things over to the Halifax Mooseheads, it was definitely a tale of 2 different games as well. And you got to love it. I mean, one game is one game, one loss is one loss. It looked a little bit flat there. What do you think about opening up your season on the road versus opening it up at home? I kind of like the fact that as a team, couple new guys as well, handful of rookies, you open the season up on the road, maybe get some of those jitters out for your first Q game or first Q game together. Then you go back home the next day. But Halifax Mooseheads, tough one in the first night in Charlottetown.
Well, see, that's where I think I might be completely wrong, because in the preview video, I said, I don't know where they third overall pick, Malik L'Italien, Halifax's new charm, it seems, on the back end. I said maybe they shouldn't throw him to the Wolves right away. What do? You're starting, kid. Get out there. First line in your first Q game. Why not? And you, like you said, probably took away some of the jitters, took some weight off his shoulders. And then the second game, all those kids kind of got the rust off their boots, and look at how they ended up in the second game, 5-4 or shootout win, actually.
When I was watching the game, and I got to catch bits and pieces of it, albeit I won't say I caught the full entire game, it seemed like there were definitely some kinks to work out. The biggest thing that I thought I saw was a lot of odd man rushes allowed, a lot of 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, uh, breakaways even. It seemed like that was there quite a bit. As the game progressed, it got a bit better. Honestly, I would say in game 1, the game could have been way worse, actually. They could have given up 5 or 6 goals. Sometimes the scoreline doesn't dictate it. Maybe they could have scored a few more goals themselves, but they didn't look nearly as organized in game 1 as they did in game 2. And so, people a lot of times talk about how in the pros, even, it's important to have that early. You'd rather almost have like a road trip early in the season than to end your season. Like if you're chasing a playoff spot late in the year, you almost would be happy to be at home. But if you want to start the year out on the road, you spend a lot of time together. For the Q guys, they're on a bus, traveling everywhere they go. You have nowhere else to talk to besides your teammates. You get to know them a little, get that chemistry. But of course, not far going to Charlottetown. But a big difference from game 1 to game 2.
Yeah, I think I noticed something really specific when I was listening to the Eastlink Mavs, his post game interview with Brad McKenzie, the new head coach of the Halifax Mooseheads. He said there's lots to work on. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said there's lots to work on, and there was lots of inconsistencies in their game. And then you go into game 2, it kind of seems like there wasn't any inconsistencies. They were going all night long. And I was watching the short video that they put out on YouTube. They do a series called Moose Tracks Uncharted, and get to see like the behind the scenes in the dressing room, that type of stuff. Brad McKenzie was fired up before the game, between the periods, second intermission, like that. That's the type of stuff that they need. It's a young team, young coach, and I think he's been a driving factor. It's a new season in Moose Country. They've had some tough few years with the coaches. We've talked about that, but I think Brad McKenzie's the one. He might be the guy.
Yeah, watching that post-game interview and just seeing quotes even in articles, didn't seem bothered at all by that game 1 loss. And obviously they turned things around. And the Q is a league where you kind of have to be able to have the memory of a goldfish. You want to learn from what you saw. And with that whole new rule being put in place this year, the first year really going into it with the NCAA and the CHL, the difference is, of course, though, with the 2 leagues, how many games you play in the Q and that quick turnaround. Like if you're a college player and you're in the NCAA, you're playing 1 or 2 games a week. That's it. You're practicing lifting weights all week. But if you're in the queue, there's a lot of games. You could have a handful of games in 1 week in the schedule. You don't have time to dwell on it.
No, like that's one of the reasons that if I was personally in that situation, I don't know if I would take the NCAA route. I know all these guys are doing it because it's the next big thing. It's the way that you're going to develop your game. You're playing against older men, but like the CHL has been a premier route to the draft for years. And if I had the chance to play 68 games over like a short 30 to 34 game schedule in the NCAA, I'm taking the CHL all day.
I think if you're already solidified as a player that's going to get drafted and you feel good about yourself, then you can take the NCAA route. But if you think to yourself, hey, I need as many games as possible to showcase myself, I'd want to be in the queue as well. I'd want to be in the CHL. So I'm with you on that one. Who do you think it hurts the most that while we're talking about it? Because I've talked to a few people about it. I thought it'd be mostly like junior A, but then people have said to me that it might be like the local universities, like the AUS schools or a different school, because somebody says like, hey, I got an offer from this university in Atlantic Canada, but I can also go play for, an NCAA school. They're going to give me some NIL money and their facilities are state of the art. Like any interview I've seen, whether they're talking about the CHL or they're talking about the AUS, when it comes down to it, whether it's actual dollars in your account or the facilities you're training in, the NCAA has more to give you. They just do, point blank, period.
They do. It's such an interesting point, actually, because I've also brought this up with a couple of guys. Whether you're going to the NCAA or coming from the NCAA, there's always going to be an option. And there will be guys coming from the NCAA that come back to U Sports. One of the players from the University of Toronto team last year that I covered actually came from UMass Lowell. And then one of the guys from the Halifax Mooseheads roster this year, Connor McPherson, actually played 5 games with University of New Hampshire, didn't really get as much playing time, and thought maybe I'm better suited for the CHL. So there's probably going to be some overflow, if I should say, of maybe some players that might get more ice time and would benefit from the CHL other than being in the NCAA.
So a 4-1 loss for the Halifax Mooseheads on the opening game of the season. And they completely turn it around with a different style of game and putting up 5 goals in game 2. But any closing thoughts on game 1? And then what did you think about that performance? I know you've talked with me about off camera just how electric Scotiabank Center or the Metro Center can be for the fans. What did you think about the differences between game 1 and game 2?
Well, game 1 was slow for the Mooseheads. Like a lot of inconsistencies, and they couldn't really get the puck out and get offense going. It was tough for them. And especially when they did score that one goal, they got the wind sucked right back out of them like 40 seconds into the third period when Charlottetown scored again. So it's hard to build momentum when the other team's just firing on all cylinders all night long. But then, like you just alluded to, the Metro Center crowd can get rocking. And it sure did Saturday night, the home opener, 8,200 fans, I believe, in the stadium. Yeah. I will say the upgrades that the Simon Sports Group has done, the lights around the stanchions and like the big moose head that shoots the smoke out of his nose. That's all stuff for the fans, and it's all stuff that gets the fans fired up, I think. It's just a real pro atmosphere.
It really is, and the environment sets the tone. I think the players, when they get there, they feel it, and they got one game under their belt. So 5-4 shootout victory. I mean, a 4-1 loss to a 5-4 shootout victory. They treated the fans, wanted it to go right down to the last shot. But overall, talk us through who impressed you, which line you thought stuck, which line you thought might get moved around. I know one thing over the years, the Halifax Mooseheads have done a great job of, and a lot of it is due to Ali McDonald and all the the scouting staff, that have done a great job. But the CHL imports, and once again, the Mooseheads feel like they found their guy.
I think so. Yasu Mensonen has really came in, and like he scored the first goal in Charlottetown. He scored the first goal in the home opener. He's on a roll. He's a goal per game player right now, if you talk about it. And yeah, he also eventually scored one in the shootout as well. So if Moose Country is looking for their guy, I think Yasu Mensonen is. If you're going to buy a Mooseheads jersey and you want a name put on the back of it for your son or something, go put Mensonen on the back of it, because he's going to turn out to be a great player for the Mooseheads this season.
Look, Jacob Voracek, Nikolai Ehlers, Timo Meyer, the Nico Heishier. There's so many players. We could go down the list for a long time. There's a lot of guys. But if you've gotten to Halifax and you're an import and you're playing for the Halifax Mooseheads, they're going to develop you. You're going to get drafted. You're going to have a great time playing here, but you're going to have a career. So I love the way you said that, because, I mean, you have better odds than not. If you're buying a jersey for a CHL import player coming to Halifax, chances are they're not going to be just a great CHL player. They're going to be a pro and do very, very well. But as you mentioned, goal per game. In the headline, we won't say it's just 2 games. Goal per game, though. Shootout as well. How about a local boy playing pretty well there? Love to see it. And shootout goal, I believe, as well. But, big one. But second period goal, Kennedy.
Yes, sir. Quinn Kennedy. Ever since he came over last year from the Rimouski Oceanic, the Mooseheads kind of made a trade with the Oceanic that sent a couple guys over, and they got Kennedy back. He was pumped to come play in his hometown. He really showed out last year in the playoffs, and now he's a leader. He's got an A on his sweater. He's kind of got a new role with the team. He's definitely one of the older guys, so it's fair to say that he's got a lot resting on his shoulders, but it's nice to see that he was able to produce and provide a lot of offense in the home opener in front of his hometown crowd.
Yeah, it's good to see, and they can expect a lot more of that. And of course, we just saw Kilfoyle get released from camp. He was invited not just to the rookie camp, though, to the NHL training camp with Detroit. So it's always funny, because as a CHL fan and a fan of a team, you're like, okay, I hope this player does really well, but you also want them back. I think back to when Jonathan Drouin got released to come back for one more year for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's like, well, I hope he makes the team, and then they don't make the team, and you're happy to have them back. So the offense is going to be real good for this Mooseheads team this year. And one thing, watching, you talk about the Moose Tracks and watching some of the mic'd up and the meetings there with the coaching staff, they want to possess the puck a lot more this year. They want to create offense. They want to enter the O zone with confidence. And based on this top 6 they have, I feel like they're ready to do that this year.
Yeah, definitely. I actually think they're in a sticky situation now, but not for a bad reason, for a very good reason. Liam Kilfoyle comes back into the mix. Obviously, he goes into the first line. Liam Kilfoyle is a first-line guy. He was the only guy at a main camp for the NHL roster, and that just kind of gives you something to think about. Who do you move down? There's Carrier, there's Kennedy. Mensonen was playing on that top line as well. He's got 2 goals. Do you really move him down, or do you move down a guy like Carrier, who's kind of been your offensive juggernaut for the past couple of seasons? It's so tough. So Brad McKenzie's got a tough situation on his hands. I think he might be better off to put Mensonen and Kulibiakin together. They're 2 import guys, 2 Europeans. They might find a European connection. So I don't know. It's really tough. I'm not the coach, so I'm glad I'm not in those shoes.
Well, it's a good, like you said, it's a good issue to have, making tough decisions. I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, and I'll tell you what, it's been a long time since they've actually had issues to have like that, and this year they do. So it's nice feeling the Halifax Mooseheads dealing with that with some offensive weapons as well. It's good to see. Overtime solved nothing, of course. They go to a shootout, and man, we were treated to some nasty moves, like just calm, collected, confident, and just absolute no doubters in the shootout.
I saw your tweet. I reposted it. You posted Mensonen's goal there with the soap emojis. So clean. I thought, wow, that was absolutely beautiful. He scored that goal, and the Metro Center erupted. I really can't call it the Scotiabank Center. I have troubles calling it the Scotiabank Center, so it's always going to be the Metro Center. Just like a Jays fan and the Sky Dome, it'll never be the Rogers Center.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
Yeah, it does. But either way, like it got so loud in there when Mensonen scored, and Quinn Kennedy comes up. He puts in the next one for the hometown guy. Like it was just like a storybook ending almost. Home opener, let the fans go home happy. Why not?
And kind of a cliche thing to say, but some people say you don't lose, you learn. And I feel like, hey, this team learned from one game and they moved on to the next. You can create some positivity out of it. So again, all of you guys out there watching us across multiple social media platforms, of course, this is Halifax Sports Talk, and we're going to be here recapping all kinds of games, but also looking ahead and talking not just about the Halifax Mooseheads, although that's the team we're based around here, being local, kind of both of us here. We're going to talk all around the Q. So people talk about out-of-town scoreboards when they're live. Well, here, let's look about some different games here. The Eagles, 3-2 loss in their first game, 6-3 win against St. John the second time around. What can you tell us about some of the rest of the league?
Well, the rest of the league, actually, funny enough, they were in St. John playing the Eagles this weekend. I was in St. John. I didn't go, and I was kind of bummed out. I was like, what a perfect opportunity to go see first overall pick Alexis Joseph and the St. John Sea Dogs play against the Cape Breton Eagles. They eventually won the first game, so props to the Sea Dogs getting out there. In my prediction video, I didn't have too many things to say about the Sea Dogs just because I didn't see too much with their roster that really intrigued me. But I guess they're wrong, or I was wrong, and they're completely on the right track here because they were rolling, but then they ended up losing 6-3 to the same team the next day. Kind of the same thing that has been going around with the Halifax and Charlottetown series, the home and home, back and forth. It's tough, but I guess if you're Cape Breton, a long trip back to the island, and you regroup for next weekend.
It's hard to beat a team twice. It is hard
It
to
really
beat a
is.
team twice. And hey, Newfoundland almost went 1-1, and they had a magical ending to their game. So, but overall, it's going to be a really great season this year in the Q. It's going to be a competitive division as well, and look forward to all kinds of the talent. We'll have some post-game shows, but we're mostly going to have these recap shows plus a show looking ahead. But we're not just going to talk about Halifax Mooseheads, not just going to talk about the Moncton Wildcats. We're going to touch on some other leagues, including the Canadian Premier League, including the National Lacrosse League. And I'm a big fan of the Premier League, of the Halifax Wanderers and covering that. And overall, this team has had some ups and downs over the years, but the best year they've really had as a franchise was making it to the finals of that COVID bubble year that took place in Charlottetown and Prince Edward Island there. This year, they found their offense a lot more at the start of the year, kind of cooled down a bit, and they've gotten it going a little bit here, but they've clinched a spot in the postseason, Dayton, and it's good to see for them.
Yeah, definitely. It gives Halifax fans something else to do around the city. You know what I mean? Like before we had a Premier League team here, there wasn't much to do in Halifax, and now it gives the fans something to look forward to. It's good for the team because everyone says the Maritimes isn't the biggest sports. We're not the biggest sporting provinces out here, but every time something comes out here, we show up. The World Juniors, the CPL. There hasn't been a Wanderers game that I've gone to that hasn't. I've been to a few, and there hasn't been one that I've gone to that hasn't been like sold out.
Mhm.
So fans are there. The fans love it. It's good for the town. It's good for the city, and I think what if they go for a run here? They might have a chance to make it all the way.
Yeah, 3-0 win over Pacific. Coimbra was the one that had the big game there. Huge goal from him. And looking overall at this team, it just seems like their defensive play, they've been able to protect leads when they get them. Last year, they had so many draws. This year, I checked it out. They either win or they lose. And as someone that's a fan of, sports that really you don't draw in, I kind of like to see that. As I've developed as a soccer fan, I will admit to you that I've gotten better at appreciating it. Every point matters when you're trying to go up the table. I don't think I'll ever get used to draws. And so seeing this Wanderers team be able to get leads, protect them, sit on it's been awesome to see. So look forward to seeing this Wanderers team move forward and hopefully have some success into the fall. But as you mentioned, as a sports city, we get behind our teams, but there's one team that's really taken over Halifax over the last handful of years. I've loved going to the games. It's always a party. In fact, sometimes I don't even know that the game's back on yet because they still play music during the game, which I'm still getting used to. But if you don't know by now, I'm talking about the Halifax Thunderbirds, of course, and ready for a big season for them as well.
A huge season, actually opening up the season against the new guys, Oshawa Firewolves. I'm excited to see how that team does in Oshawa. It's a team that's obviously outside of the GTA. Sometimes teams that are put outside of the GTA need a little bit more promoting than other teams just because they're not the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I think it'll be good. They'll share an arena with the Oshawa Generals. So some Generals fans will come to the Firewolves games, and it'll be kind of like the Mooseheads and Thunderbirds. They'll share an arena, share some fans, and I think it'll be great. They obviously start the season at home, end the season at home against Ottawa. So it's great, a great looking schedule here for the Thunderbirds, and I'm excited to see if they can make it back to the playoffs. And I'm looking forward to that home and home with Saskatchewan, who they just played in the semifinals last year, because it'll be a good rematch.
It's hard to have a rivalry when you're that far away from each other, but this has rivalry all over it. That was very physical. It was a great series between those two teams. So, look, sometimes it can be disappointing when the summer ends. No more really going to the beach. No more nice weather. But I couldn't be more excited for all these sports to be back in action here. Lacrosse, Wanderers playoffs, Mooseheads are back. The Q's back. The pros are back here before we know it. So it's a really exciting time, and we look forward to being with you guys every single week across all social media platforms. And we invite you to join us and, of course, interact with us on X, on YouTube, on TikTok, wherever you're finding us. And let us know your thoughts. We want to know who's your favorite player this year on the Halifax Mooseheads. What are your expectations for the Wanderers going into the postseason? And have you jumped on board with the Halifax Thunderbirds? Because if you haven't, you have to check it out. They're great. They are awesome. So, Dayton, it's been a great first show together. Great working with you. Any closing thoughts?
No, Andrew, you pretty much covered it all. I just want to say thank you for everyone. If you've tuned in, make sure you stick around. Like Andrew said, we've got everything covered here. We're going to be bringing it to you all season long. So stick around.
Absolutely, guys. All right. This has been Halifax Sports Talk. Dayton and Andrew. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.